All right, we have time for one more, which is I think we can make this one rather quick, and this is very much a pointed Patrick McKeown question. So, in the oxygen advantage, this comes from Jacob, by the way. So, Jacob, thanks for submitting. Jacob asks, in the oxygen advantage, you stated that you should take short breaths in and out before you hold your breath during the bolt test. Is a short breath meaning your normal breath, or do you actually manipulate breathing prior to the hold? So this is kind of a technical question. I think, like, in the oxygen advantage, you say, for a minute or so or a few minutes, normal breathing, and then just before taking your bolt score, you do a short breath in and a short breath out. So I think what Jacob's asking is that short breath like actually like a shorter breath than normal? Or is that just, hey, make sure that you're breathing normally and then after your exhale, hold? So I'm curious on this one, Patrick.
Yes, this is this is a play in words.
Mhm.
Jacob is right. We
Mhm.
probably, I think I need to fix that description because, and I'll tell you why I did it.
Mhm.
Every time I asked somebody when I was working with our students, always over the years, and if I asked them, take a breath in and out through your nose, they took this big, full, big breath. There was
Yep.
always that idea.
Yep.
And that's not what I wanted. And that's why I put in. And even if I told them take a normal breath in and out,
Still be
it was a big
extended.
breath.
Yep.
So it's kind of difficult just to get that one. So for Jacob, it is actually a normal breath once you understand what a normal breath is.
Right.
So basically, it's how you breathe normally, and then it's a normal inhalation and a normal exhalation, and then you stop breathing. And then
Mhm.
at the end, after the breath hold, you should have a normal inhalation again. So yeah, so good question.
Right.
Maybe it's back to. I'll have to go back to the books now and start changing that
Right.
description.
Man, yeah, Jacob's like, "Where's my royalties? Where's my royalties for this change?" Uh, I like it. No, it's a really good clarification too, because when Jacob submitted the question, I was like, "Oh, interesting. Let me go back to the book." So I opened up Oxygen Advantage and I was reading. I was like, "Oh, it does say." And like on the diagram that you have included in the book, it's like it says short breath, and I was like, "Oh, I wonder if Patrick is saying like just kind of do not like a sniff, but kind of like a and then just like hold afterwards. But that's
Yeah.
good. So what you're referring to is a normal breath, but not a
Yes.
normal paced breath that people are like, doing
Well,
like a 6 second breath.
it's the whole thing. Yeah, it's kind of you know how it goes. You say somebody, I'd like you to take now a breath in through your nose and a breath out through your nose, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Ends up being like this, 6 second
that's it.
inhalation, like 8 second exhalation. You're like, all right. Yeah. No, I've done that before too. And I think that there has been times like when I've taken my bolt score that I've done that. Like I've like, oh man, I probably inhaled and exhaled longer because again, like this comes back to neuroticism and gamification and perfectionism and like trying to beat scores. And, it can be a little bit difficult at times too, because, the whole point at looking at bolts is indeed it's a great evaluation and assessment, but then when you take it periodically, especially if you're training to try to improve it, there's always that bit of you who's like, oh, let's see what I can do now. Can I give myself some
Yes.
level of competitive advantage this time? So I get it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, One of our instructors who was working with a company, and he had about 24 staff members, and he measured all of their both scores, and they were coming in. I think the lowest was about 24 seconds, and the highest was 44 seconds. I was just thinking to myself, I've never had a group of 24 people with such high both
That's
scores. So
really
I would say what happened was he went into the company. The first person held their breath for 24 seconds, while the next person in the company is saying, "Well, I'm not going to be beaten by this guy, and I'm going to have it."
that's
And I
exactly it.
would say that's what happened. And I sent him an email back, and I said, "This is the most bizarre collection of bowl scores. If it was a randomly selected group of individuals, normally we would expect anything from 10 seconds to about 25 seconds
Right.
within that range from the normal population.
Yes.
not from 24 to 44 unless they're elite,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. It's we're not going to allow within our application for people to view other people's bolt scores because they're just gonna be like, oh, I'm beating my neighbor over here. I'm beating my spouse over here. It's everything turns into a competition. I'm not saying it's a bad competition necessarily to have. We could be having worse competitions like how many beers can I chug compared to my neighbor. So maybe this is a better competition. But if we want to get a good legitimate overview of body oxygen level tests, it's like, hey, the only person we're going to try to fool is ourselves. And it's not going to do us really any good if we try to fool ourselves. So, hey, let's just do the test as is. And whatever the score is, the score is. And it gives us a good baseline. It allows us to improve. So, we're still going to always have people who are going to try to gamify it and compete with each other. And again, though, I think that there's probably worse things that we can compete on. But is it providing us much benefit if we're cheating? Not really. So yeah, but great question there, Jacob. I think it's a really interesting one that hopefully helps people if they're wondering like, oh, am I just taking kind of like little tiny small breaths? And it's like, no, you're taking a normal breath, but your normal breath probably is closer to a small breath than like what you might do if you were pacing your breathing or you were actually manipulating consciously your breathing. So nice work, Jacob. All right.